In terms of how to make your writing stand out, it's to literally identify what's unique about you or what's unique about your perspective.
My name's Peter Sumpton, and this is the Marketing Study Lab podcast. A podcast for those that are thinking, have thought and are doing, or already have a marketing qualification. But there's a little bit of something for everyone, as we cover a whole host of marketing topics. I chat to some amazing guests, each one a superstar in their own niche. And if you have a burning marketing question already, or after this episode, get in touch, we'll chat it through. peter@marketingstudylab.co.uk, or find me on LinkedIn. The link is in the show notes. If you'd like to leave a review on iTunes, this will really help others find this podcast and spread the marketing word. Now let's get on with today's episode. So this episode has been recorded slightly differently to what we usually do, mixing things up a little if you like. So a big thank you to our guest this week, Mullings, for editing the actual interview part of this episode. And with that in mind, let's meet Jay, a content producer on YouTube. Just search for Written Mirror and you'll find him. This title doesn't do him justice, however, as Jay covers a whole host of creative development, from copywriting to screenwriting, manuscript editing, photography, film, TV directing, audio-video editing, colour correction and grading, and of course, publishing. Jay also has a host of awards to his name, from screenplay writing awards to international film festival accolades. Way too many to mention here. Nice work, Jay. So, who better to talk about all things creative and the creative process? But first, before we get into all of that, I want to know two things. The first one being, what is the greatest song lyric of all time?
So we're going right in this time, huh? Turn your lights down low, Bob Marley. It's like very descriptive, but at the same time, like so smooth, economic. I like that line a lot. So I think that's my favorite lyric of all time. Turn your lights down low.
If you could play one fictional character in a movie, who would it be and why?
It's easy. Batman. It's like playing myself, but with money. He wears black all the time. He's misunderstood. He uses resources to do good. Yeah, Batman. Like honestly, genius level intellect, martial artist, escape artist. He's like Sherlock Holmes in, I guess, Unleashed on fictional New York City. Yeah, Batman, for sure.
Okay, on to the more serious stuff now. What's the story behind what has brought you to this stage of your career as a content producer?
I would say it's really just about executing, taking these visions from my mind and then, finding a way to make them tangible. And also, at the same time, not disappointing the vision I have for myself. So I'd say that's what's led me to this point in my career. It's just seeing the things in my head and then just finding a way to go out and execute them as best as I can. No resources, no backers, not really much supporters, doesn't matter. My whole ethos is, go out and get it done regardless. If you can't do it, if you're not doing it for anyone, do it for yourself.
Can you just explain what a content producer does?
Yes, I could try. Basically, a content producer's job, and this varies from company to company, but usually it's coming up with the big picture plan. So from conception, this is a problem. This is the solution to said problem in a storytelling format. I say storytelling because obviously I'm a storyteller, but content as in it will either be graphics, a written post, video. It'll be something that solves that problem from a content perspective. And you call everything together content: photos, text, video, explainers, animation. You group that all as one thing and call it content. Another job title would be media production manager, but content just kind of encompasses it all a lot nicer, really, in my opinion.
You've created a lot of content, a lot of detailed content. Do you follow a similar pattern or process every time? Or does it differ depending on the projects you're working on and the content type that you're creating?
Well, yeah, it would have to. I mean, I'd like to see you take a camera into a booth and make music with it. Yeah, I mean, look, every type of content requires a similar mindset in terms of, you're open to creativity and it is a story you're telling, but at the same time they all require different types of skills. So vocaling, for instance, and making music is about conveying that onto a track. With a video, you're going to want to really try and convey the emotion in the visuals, or with the timing, if you're, combining music and visuals, so on and so forth. So it's like vocals, you've got to put it into it to begin with. Video, you've kind of got to have it in mind, but make sure you finesse it in the edit. Writing, you've got to think about the person that's reading it, or the person it's intended for. Like, you've got to really put yourself in their shoes.
What advice would you give anyone that is currently writing anything really and is potentially struggling or sick and tired of writing the same stuff or producing poor content?
If you're producing poor content, really and truly, youtube.com, go look for Written Mirror. I've got videos on there that are literally about the mindset you require for, regaining your purpose, regaining your ambition, writing the best stuff you've written. If you're having issues motivating yourself, that's a good source. The Thought Book 1, the Thought Book 2, good sources. But also, I would say just take a step back and really evaluate why you're writing what you're writing. And it may also be a situation where you're just trying to control too much. You maybe need to let go a little bit, like relax, take your mind off it, go away, travel, like if it's possible, like just do something to kind of ease your mind and ease the pressure you're putting on yourself.
So we've discussed how to avoid bad writing, but I want to take this a step further and look at excelling when you're writing.
Okay.
How do you write in order to stand out in a crowd? Because the people that are listening might be writing a marketing assignment where it'll be passed on to an examiner and the examiner will be marking hundreds of papers. So if this paper stands out and it's really well written, they will gain marks because the examiner will enjoy marking it and reading it. So
Right.
how would somebody go about doing that and standing out?
I think that's almost two questions: standing out and writing for academia, which are two different things. And the reason I say they're two different things is because, as far as I know, academics, or when you're being marked for your academic papers, essays, you're being marked on how coherently you can answer the questions, not necessarily how entertaining you can write. So I just want to make that clear. I don't think that's scoring you any extra marks, if I'm honest. In terms of how to make your writing stand out, it's to literally identify what's unique about you, or what's unique about your perspective. Or if it's the same perspective as everyone else, it's about understanding why you have that perspective. And hopefully that is what makes your offering stand out from the crowd. I hope that answers that.
With any of your content creation, have you ever hit a mental block in terms of writing, creating, designing, developing, or anything really? And if so, how do you find you overcome this?
No. And again, touch wood and all of that stuff, as people would say. But no, I've never really hit a creative block. And the reason why, I believe, is because I have a varied creative diet. As you already know, I create different types and lots of different types of content. But what it really involves with those different content types is, like I've said earlier, almost a different mindset, or a different application of the skill set is required for each type. So it allows me to constantly be in a bubble of, evolution and understanding different ways of telling stories. So no, I can't really relate. But again, if anyone is going through that, writtenmirror.com or youtube.com/written mirror. I've got videos that talk about the mindset you need. Got books that talk about the mindset you need to overcome these things. So check it out, please.
Anyone that is or has ever studied or done anything in life in general really will have had deadlines they have to hit or achieve. How do you make sure you always achieve your deadlines? Because I suppose in this content producer role, deadlines are massively important.
Yeah, how I always go about achieving deadlines. I think if you're collaborating, it's not impossible, but it's very hard to always hit your deadline. So that's the first thing. It's understanding that, well, it's understanding the scope of the project. Is it about the best delivery or the most efficient and quickest delivery? If it's about the quickest, then you're going to have to make some sacrifices along the way, quality wise. If it's about the highest quality, then you might have to, you might have to give yourself plenty of room for error. So I would say that's how I go about keeping to a schedule. But I've always found that when I'm collaborating with people, everything takes longer than it should. So I'd say, the duration you would expect plus maybe 2-3 weeks. If it's for big projects, that's what we're talking about. So you kind of got to give yourself that scope for tolerance to go over a bit. Again, I'm hoping that answers your question somehow, because yeah, I do a lot of content, so I try and get as much as I can achieved very quickly.
Okay, Jay, are you ready for some quick fire questions?
Hit me up. Let's go.
Name one must-read business book.
The Art of War.
What was the last thing you Googled?
Pizza.
What is your most used app at the moment?
5x5 strong lifts.
What would be your one tip for people who are studying at the moment?
Boy, get used to that.
If you could tell your 10-year-old self one thing, what would it be?
Avoid the advice of older men. They don't always know everything. And I'd be worried if a 30-something-year-old came up to me as a 10-year-old to tell me anything.
Jay, thank you so much for helping me record this. It's been an absolute pleasure and really interesting listening to all the answers you've given. Much appreciated. Thank you.
No worries at all. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate you reaching out. And yeah, I hope this is of value to anyone who's going to be getting this. Again, if anyone wants to follow me, at Written Mirror on Instagram, Twitter, J Mullings on LinkedIn, just add me. If you have any issues I can help you with, whether it's writing wise, creating, telling stories, or standing out, I'm more than happy to help. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much once again, Jay. Not just for being on the Marketing Study Lab podcast, but helping with the edit, because I think you did an amazing job. Hats off to you. Well, you would. It is your profession. Anyway, what I want to focus on now is just some takeaways that I got from that chat with Jay. And the first one is his ethos. And that's to go out and get things done regardless, to the best of his ability. And he thrives off this, which is just amazing. So have a think. What are you doing and who are you doing it for? Have a focal point. Even if it's for yourself, it can be a powerful thing to have in your locker. When creating content, be open to creativity and the story you're telling. But let's bring this down a little bit to writing, especially within marketing assignments. Jay mentioned that you need to be thinking about the person that will read it and read what you've written. And this couldn't be more prevalent in marketing, really, could it? Your audience, an examiner, whoever it might be, you need to think about that person. And finally, to keep that writer's block away, mix up your content. Both what you're consuming, by way of research, if you're studying marketing, or even if you're just in the marketing profession, but also how you tackle creating that content. So my best piece of advice to you is check out YouTube/Written Mirror for more advice on this. The link, as always, is in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us today on Marketing Study Lab. It really means the world that you're listening to this out there. And hopefully I've provided you some value. If you're looking to know more about what Marketing Study Lab does and is about, go to marketingstudylab.co.uk or get in touch with me personally, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or feel free to email me at peter@marketingstudylab.co.uk. Happy marketing.